Hello, today we will be reviewing the technology guidelines that can be found on the TEA webpage. To locate the technology guidelines, hover over Student Testing and Accountability, and under the Testing section, you should see Accommodation Resources. Once you are in the Accommodation Resource page, scroll all the way down to Related Resources, and one of the documents in this section is the Technology Guidelines. When you select Technology Guidelines, you should see the document download to your computer. When you open the Technology Guidelines, you will notice that it is a one-page document. The first section explains that districts are required to have procedures in place to make sure that no personal devices are being used for test administration. It goes on to explain that when districts are using allowed or approved technology, including technology-based accessibility features, these guidelines must be followed for test security and validity and reviewed before the use in an assessment. And it is important to consider that appropriate review requires knowledge of both the TEKS for the specific grade level and subject and the capabilities and functions of the device or software to be used during the assessment. In essence, it is important to foster collaboration between the technology personnel and curriculum personnel to make sure that the technology guidelines are being followed, as well as considering that the applications are not providing functionality that compromises the curriculum assessed. It is also important to note that some technology may be used during a daily academic setting, but this technology sometimes cannot be used during a state assessment. For technology-based designated supports, a student may use allowed technology during a state assessment if he or she routinely uses it during classroom instruction and classroom testing and is approved to use it based on the decisions of the appropriate committee. For example, the ARD committee, 504 committee, LPAC, RTI, or student assistance team. This next section explains that districts or campus personnel must conduct additional reviews of technology after any upgrade or update to determine if it continues to meet TEA guidelines for use during a state assessment. And again, it is important to remember that all technology used during state assessments must adhere to the following guidelines. The technology guidelines explain that for a device or software to be considered appropriate for state assessment, it must be set in a mode that locks the user into a specific software program and blocks the user from accessing functionalities that may violate test security, such as the ability to send secure test content through messages, capturing images or videos, the ability to send or receive any person-to-person communication about secure test content, such as chat, video, and email, or the ability to save secure test content. When using applications on a tablet, laptop, or desktop computer, districts must ensure that the application does not provide functionality that compromises the curriculum assessed. We will now review the training presentation that is also available in the Accommodation Resource webpage to assist districts in making appropriate decisions about technology-based accommodations. So we are back on the Accommodation Resource page on the TEA website. And under the Related Resource section, under Technology Guidelines, you can find the 2018-2019 updates to the Technology Use Guideline presentation. When you select the presentation or PDF file, you will see it downloaded at the bottom of your screen. The Technology Use Guidelines presentation pretty much expands on the Technology Guidelines policy document. And it also includes some clarifications and examples of appropriate technology used during state assessment. I'm going to go ahead and skip down a couple of pages that we have already reviewed on the document itself. If you navigate to page 8, the Technology Guidelines presentation explains that tablet devices may be used for calculation applications, speech-to-text applications, word processor applications, and dictionary applications. But when using tablet applications, districts must ensure that the application does not provide functionality that compromises the curriculum assessed. If an application or software program requires an internet connection to function, such as a speech-to-text feature that requires access to an internet-based word bank, it should be set in a mode that prevents the student from accessing the internet through a browser or accessing any other aids beyond the allowable supports. If you have any questions about whether a specific technology meets guidelines, contact the most appropriate person in your district. And once again, applications may not be accessed on a cell phone. Moving on to STAAR dictionary policy and the technology guidelines. The new STAAR Online has an embedded dictionary tool that is available for 2019. This dictionary tool will be available on all STAAR online reading and writing tests as required by the STAAR dictionary policy. However, the dictionary policy also allows for electronic dictionaries and dictionary applications. New for 2019 is that dictionary applications on a tablet, laptop, or desktop are allowable under the STAAR dictionary policy. In order to abide by the technology guidelines, all dictionary applications must have the following features or functions disabled prior to using it for STAAR assessment. The application cannot have internet browsing, identify location of student or search by location. The application must not have videos, animations, or extensive text to expand upon a definition. The application must not have the email, text, or social media access, games, quizzes, and anagrams, the ability to capture images, such as by using the camera. Upgrades are syncing on the day of tests, since some of the updates may not meet the requirements outlined in the technology guidelines. Subject-specific or slang dictionaries, and access to offline favorites or recent searches, including customized definition glossaries. And they may not have highlighted words on a page to look up. It is important to note that when looking at videos, animations, or extensive text to expand upon a definition, that this doesn't necessarily include picture images, since a picture dictionary is allowable. Some of the features or functions that are outlined in the technology guidelines can be disabled either through the application itself or by disabling the features on the device. For example, games and quizzes may be able to be disabled through the application, but image capturing might be something that needs to be disabled on the actual device being used. These are examples of a dictionary application setting screen, which allow you to disable features that are not allowed or to select the features that are allowed. Moving on to the STAAR calculator policy. For all calculator applications, these features and functions must be disabled as outlined in the technology guideline policy document. A calculator application must not have functions that compromise the curriculum standards being assessed. It must not have internet capabilities. And if a calculator application requires an internet connection in order to function, it should be set in a mode that prevents the student from accessing an internet browser or accessing any other aids beyond the allowed support. Features that allow access to other programs should also be disabled. The device should be put in kiosk mode or a district-wide mobile device management system. The application must not allow access to the computer algebra system, and any feature that will allow the ability to share or email a response. The application must be clear to factory default both before and after testing in order to make sure that the content is not saved onto the actual device. Any programs or applications that are not pre-installed by default must be removed or disabled prior to the test. This slide provides two examples on how to disable features that may not be allowed during assessment. This first example shows how guided access is enabled in order to disable the ability to capture an image. As you can see next to where the student is able to enter a problem, there's a little picture of a camera that allows the image capture. This gray area around the camera was placed on top of that specific section in order to disable that feature. The second example shows a calculator application settings screen, which allows you to disable features that are not allowed or to select features that are allowed. So if you were to use a basic calculator, you could delete the scientific calculator from being able to be accessed through that application. Some other designated supports that may include technology are basic transcribing, calculating aids for grades 3rd through 7th, and spelling assistance. For the basic transcribing designated support policy, the student may type responses on a word processor, and the student may also use speech-to-text technology to indicate responses for multiple choice questions, gradable questions, or writing prompts. This is where you see technology used. If the eligible student is taking an online test, a separate desktop or laptop may be necessary, or the online test will need to be paused so the student can use the software. Features that must be disabled, as outlined in the technology guidelines, include the disabling of internet capabilities, and if a word processor software requires an internet connection to function, it should be set in a mode that prevents the student from accessing an internet browser or accessing any other aids beyond the allowable supports. Any features that will allow the ability to access other programs or features not allowed on the device should also be disabled. Any features that will edit or aid a student's response, such as spell check, word predictor, audio correction for punctuations and capitalization, should be disabled as well if the student does not qualify for that specific support. Saving capabilities should also be disabled, and if the software requires the student's response to be temporarily saved, the district must ensure the file is permanently deleted after the administration. And any features that will allow the ability to share or email a response should also be disabled. This is an example of a tablet's keyboard setting, which allows you to disable features that are not allowed. Once these settings are disabled on the keyboard, when the student accesses the tablet's note application, the features are no longer available, which makes it an allowable application. For basic transcribing speech-to-text, features that are not allowed are any feature that will edit or aid a student's response, such as grammar check and auto capitalization and punctuation. Features that will save a typed response must also be disabled, and if the application requires the student's response to be temporarily saved, the district must ensure the file is permanently deleted after the administration. Any feature that will allow the ability to share or email a response must also be disabled. Internet capability must also be disabled, and if the speech-to-text application requires an internet connection to function, it should be set in a mode that prevents the student from accessing an internet browser or accessing any other aid beyond the allowed support. Translation devices must also be disabled, as well as any feature that will allow the ability to access other programs or features not allowed on the device. This is an example of speech-to-text application settings that allow you to disable features that are not allowed. As you can see, under the settings menu of this specific application, under auto correction, you can disable the check spelling, auto detect list, auto detect links. As you can see, features can be disabled. So when the student uses an application such as a notepad, the student no longer has access to unallowable features or functions. For the calculation aid designated support policy, a student in 3rd through 7th grade taking the STAAR assessment can use only the following calculators for the state assessment. A student can use a basic 4-function calculator application, including large key or speech output, or they can use the basic calculator available as an online embedded support on STAAR. These are the 2 examples that need to abide by the technology guidelines. For questions regarding the functions of a basic calculator, see the basic calculator tool on the STAAR online testing platform. Beginning in spring 2019, Basic Calculator will be offered as a new embedded personal needs and preference support. The tool will also be available in a practice test in the STAAR online testing platform. These are 2 examples of allowable 4-function calculator applications. As you can see, the application provides a simple 4-function calculator with basic functions. These are examples of calculator applications that are not considered for-function basic calculators. These applications provide functionality that compromise the curriculum assessed, as they offer extra features above and beyond a basic for-function calculator. For the Spelling Assistance Designated Support, the Technology Application Guidelines apply to spell check functions on a word processor or an online embedded support on STAAR, a pocket spell checker, word prediction software, text-to-speech software or devices, and speech-to-text software applications or devices. The online embedded spelling assistant tool is available in a practice test on the STAAR online testing platform. Consider that not every student eligible for the Spelling Assistance Designated Support will use this personal needs preference. Only students who routinely use a spell check feature may benefit from these embedded supports. I think it is also important to note that a student may use any allowable example or types of spelling assistance listed in the Designated Support Policy document in lieu of or in addition to this online embedded support. In other words, a student can use this specific spell check function and also use word prediction software to meet their spelling assistance need. In order to abide by the technology guidelines, spelling assistance features that are not allowed include any feature that will edit or aid a student's response in areas other than spelling, such as auto capitalization and punctuation or grammar check. Any feature that will save a typed response must be disabled, and if the spelling assistance software requires the student's response to be temporarily saved, the district must ensure the file is permanently deleted after the administration. Any features that will allow the ability to share or email responses and internet capabilities must be disabled. And the same as with the other applications, if a spelling assistance software requires the internet connection to function, it should be set in a mode that prevents the student from accessing internet browser or accessing any other aids beyond the allowed support. For spelling assistance, you must also disable translation services and any feature that will allow the ability to access other programs or features not allowed on the device. This is an example of a tablet's keyboard setting which allows you to disable features that are not allowed and to enable features that are allowed. For example, it allows you to disable the auto capitalization function, which is not allowed, but it allows you to enable word prediction or check the spelling, and it allows you to disable or enable dictation. When you open an application such as a notepad, the student is then able to use the allowable supports without having access to unallowable features. And just as a reminder, if you need any assistance on how to disable features on your specific application, you can perform a web search or contact your district's technology department or contact your regional service center's assistive technology representative.